You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast. Your boy Pat Lane, as always, with my guy Matt St. Jean. And today's episode, as all of our episodes, are brought to you by Prize Picks and Game Time. Prize Picks, of course, is the official daily fantasy sports app of the CLNS Media Network, and Game Time is the official ticketing app of the CLNS Media Network. So download both of those and put in the promo code CLNS, and you'll get a special gift. Hello, everyone. Hello, Matt. We are currently in the dead zone. We are in the dead zone right now, not the Stephen King dead zone. That's a real long throwback if you want to go all the way back to Michael C. Hall, I believe, on the TV show, or even Christopher Walken in the movie. No one has any idea what the hell I'm talking about. But
you lost me, Pat.
As a big Stephen King fan, I know of the dead zone quite well. So some of our older listeners are like, oh, Dead Zone, Christopher Walken. I know what you're talking about. I know. So to those of you that know what I'm talking about, respect. Otherwise, you're just young. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. So, all right. So here we are in the middle of absolutely nothing. There's nothing going on, right? Like not a dang thing is going on right now.
Well, this is, we'll say, Monday night. We do have another media access for OTAs tomorrow. So we get a little bit there. We get a little something, but It's a trickle. Like what we're getting is loose reports about unpadded walkthroughs.
Right.
And that's it. When's the first training camp? Like 6 weeks from now?
Yeah, it's a while.
Yeah. So thankfully we have the Celtics to hold us over here for a little bit in this gap. But yeah, that's the funny thing about football is that the season goes from September to February, but media wise, the season is like August to April.
Yeah.
So this is our off season here.
Right. Correct. That is correct. So also shout out Thad, knows what I'm talking about. Christopher Walken's Dead Zone movie. Loving it. Nice work. Nice work, Thad. But anyways, you're totally right. And there is some stuff going on, of course, but for us, we're kind of like, oh God, what do we talk about right now? Right. And so that's when you get into the, Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark and what Caitlin Clark is having.
Can we just be normal? Please.
Yeah.
They're athletes. It's a rivalry. Things happen on the court. Right. Sometimes it isn't cool, but that's like part of sports and like one of the fun things about sports.
Yeah.
Like there's no it's just the whole discourse around everything around this is so annoying.
It's so frustrating, and I feel like that it would not be the case with men's sports, right? If this were happening in the NBA, like if when LeBron, and not that I'm comparing Caitlin, not that I'm comparing Caitlin Clark to LeBron James, but if this had happened to LeBron when he came into the league, yeah, of course, like people would feel that way, and they'd be like, well, you're doing this, but like. And it's so funny because part of my take was kind of all over this, and they said they played clips from the Cavs locker room talking about, we'll see if he can come in here, compete with Caron Butler, and whatever. Like they're not giving him any praise. They're not, he's not the Messiah. Like it's like, dude, we're out here working every day, man. Like he's got to earn it, just like everyone else got to earn it, right? And he's good enough. Now LeBron obviously was really good his rookie year because LeBron is LeBron. Caitlin Clark isn't LeBron, but still very good. And again, she's getting eyes on it. And I thought Angel Reese today, she took ownership of it. She was like, yeah, sure. You want me to be the bad guy? I'm the bad guy. Fine. This is my role. This is what it is. And if, people don't like it, then they don't like it. And it's like, that's okay. It's okay to have a rivalry of Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, well, and there was, I believe, one of the Chicago papers put out something earlier this evening. There was a whole article that was like almost like apologizing for the conduct of the team and like saying that there should be an assault charge, like not an assault charge, but like calling it an assault when Caitlin
Right.
Clark was like hip checked on the floor. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. And it
No.
was not the sports people that came up with that. It was the non-sports people. I know the sports side's really upset about that, but like, no, they're athletes. Things get chippy on the floor. People have their reason to be upset with Caitlin Clark, which is fine. I don't personally agree with it, but I'm not the one on the floor, so who cares? And
Right.
like, they'll battle it out. And like, if it crosses a line, that's where the league and the refs get involved. But like,
Yeah.
it doesn't need a whole discourse. Caitlin Clark is a fully functioning adult woman who doesn't need people like stepping up and coming to her defense who aren't like her teammates on the floor doing
Right.
it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's the only thing that I would say is like her teammates need to step up and do something if it keeps happening,
Yeah.
right? And
Agreed.
I think that stuff polices itself naturally. Like it just you kind of, and again, I think it's good for the game. I do. Like it's something to talk about. Now, the discourse is getting out of control where it's like, salt and all this other crap. Like, all right, let's relax. But, the fact that eyes are on the WNBA, like
That's a good
they're
thing.
running in the first, and look, I mean, ESPN just absolutely just a joke today between
Drop the ball twice.
McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. It's like, what the hell are we doing here, guys? But at least we're talking about it. At least it's on the forefront of everyone's mind. And I think that's a great thing for the game. Now, what they have to do is you have to then support that by being good, by then showing the right things, right? And doing the right things. And I think that's kind of that next step is like,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, okay, great. Sure, we don't want everyone cheap shotting everyone else. We get that. But like at the same time, we are on different teams here. Like we don't have to all celebrate each other. It's okay for us to be competitive and have rivalries with each other too. That's fine. Like I'm all for women empowerment. That's great. I am super into women empowerment actually with two little girls, and I was whatever. A lot of my students I've had conversations with, but that's not the point. The point is that it's like why can't they have rivalries like the NBA has rivalries? It's just kind of silly.
It's weird. So I'm sure we'll get there, but like also if you're turning to Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith for your WNBA takes, you are barking up the wrong tree.
Those
guys have a lane in the media, and that is not it.
That is a great point. That's a great point. So, all right. So, dude, look at this guy killing it. You're right.
Like and please
It
subscribe.
happens. That's right.
Yeah.
Smash that like and please subscribe. Please do.
Yeah.
That would be nice if you did. We'd appreciate it. And listen, subscribe on the CLNS YouTube channel, of course, but also subscribe on the Pats Nation Network YouTube channel as well, because every now and again we'll be doing stuff on there that won't be on the CLNS Media YouTube just because of time conflicts and scheduling conflicts and things like that. So, anyways, so
I know we're gonna do our draft. The other thing we wanted to talk about, numbers.
Let's do it.
Yeah, they were talking about this in Patriots Unfiltered, and I wanted to bring it here. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I believe it was Evan Lazar was the guy who was talking about Jalen Hawkins out there wearing number 32, playing free safety for New England.
Yeah,
he had a little bit of beef with that. He's a little bit upset about that. I have my take, but I want to hear where you are on this first.
Yeah. So first of all, Thad did mention, and someone else mentioned it earlier too, that the Patriots did cut Andrew Stuber. Mm-hmm. The dream is over for Andrew Stuber. We kind of knew. I mean, Jesus, if you watched training camp last year, my God.
It was at the Titans game in the preseason. Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad. But anyways, so they did move on from him. Look, the number thing is tough because it is the NFL. There are 53 guys on a roster. There are more than that, counting the practice squad. There are 90 guys to start the season. And of course, some of those guys double up with numbers and everything else like that. But it's hard for me to justify retiring a ton of numbers. However, some of them I feel like kind of needed, right? Like, for instance, Devin McCourty is a good example, right? Obviously, Gino Cappelletti's has been. I don't know if anyone other than Gino has Andre Tippett's been retired. I believe Andre Tippett's 56 is retired as well.
His has not been retired. This is actually a subject of discussion. His has not been issued since he played, but also has not been
That's what I was going
retired.
to say. No one's actually worn it yet. But you're right. It hasn't actually been retired. Because I was going to say,
Which
yeah,
is
I can't remember
weird
anyone.
at that point. How long has it been to like retire at this point?
He retired in did he retire in 1990? I don't think he ever played with Bledsoe. No, I think he did. I think he played 1 year with the blue uniforms. I think he might have played in 93.
Okay.
And then that was it. I might be wrong about that, but it was right around that early 90s. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him in those blue uniforms for 1 year in 93. Anyways, so, but it's one of those hard things that and Matt Menino points out, Donta Hightower at 54. Like, are we retiring Donta Hightower's number? Probably not. Great player, Patriots Hall of Famer, but I don't know, So that's the difficult thing for me. Is what do we talk about? How do we decide where is that threshold? Is the threshold Devin McCourty? Like, Devin McCourty might be the threshold, right? You're talking about 14 really good years, a guy that's a borderline Pro Football Hall of Famer.
And here's the thing. If Devin McCourty is the threshold, then I think Gronk has to be retired.
Yeah.
I think Ty Law has to be retired. I think Richard Seymour probably has to be retired in there, which now we're getting to a lot of numbers, but with good arguments for him. I think Willie McGinnis probably jumps on this list at that point. And he doesn't have, it's tough. I feel like they retired some numbers maybe they shouldn't have, and now they're in a box with how many they can retire overall. Like the full list right now, I think 20 is for Gino Cappelletti.
Yep.
That's
correct. That's correct.
Mike Haynes 40 warranted. Andre Tippett 56 warranted. Steve Nelson 57.
See, I don't know how I feel about that.
One first team All Pro, one second team All Pro, 3 Pro Bowls.
Good player, played. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing with a guy like Nelly, he played his whole career here, did he not? I think that not that matters, but because Mike Haynes obviously didn't play the majority of his career out in Oakland or LA or wherever the hell the Raiders were playing at the time, but maybe both, who knows? But I think that becomes part of it. Mike Haynes, unbelievable player, was great for the Patriots for a number of years, but the majority of people that think about Mike Haynes outside of New England are thinking about him as a Raider, right? And I think that's a problem when you're talking about retiring his number for your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, then you've also got John Hanna. That's a no doubter that he's on it. Bruce Armstrong.
Is he on there?
He's retired.
They retired his number?
Yeah.
And again, another Patriots lifer.
He's right on the cusp to me. I think he is and Jim Lee Hunt, who's that's an old school AFL guy right there. 4 All Pros in 10 years in New England. I get that one. Bob D is 89.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these guys were let's say Hunt and D were put in the Patriots Hall of Fame in 93, as was Steve Nelson. So a lot of these were guys that were in that inaugural Patriots Hall of Fame class, which I think is why those numbers ended up getting retired. But I think the other part of it is 24 is a number I think I'd consider retiring. Yeah. It is tough because it's Ty Law and it's Darrelle Revis, who had significant moments in it, and it's Stephon Gilmore, who had significant moments in it for New England. In some ways, I feel like it's almost tough to retire at this point because you've had other players make iconic
jersey. You can't retire it at this point. I would agree with that. You just can't.
Well, and I think there's merit to temporarily retiring it, saying for something like 87, I think they should retire Gronk's jersey personally. But if you're not going to, say we're going to hold it out of circulation for 5 years before we give it out to anybody. Devin McCourty, I think, should absolutely be on that list of we're going to give this time before somebody else wears it in a real game. A guy I was surprised to see get his number issued right away was Edelman with 11. I don't think he is quite jersey retirement level, but I was surprised they just turned around and gave that to somebody else immediately. Now, the flip side of all of this is I think there is an argument for saying that, hey, we're going to have certain jersey numbers that we don't retire because they're an honor thing. That is something that you see at the college level all the time. And it's one thing, as a college basketball fan, up until last season, there were like a very limited number of jersey numbers you can wear in college basketball. And you don't really see retired numbers. So what ends up happening is that programs have certain numbers that they get given to their best players year after year. It's like, okay, we know our starting point guard's always wearing number 3. And like, that's always like an honor thing. Like you've earned that number, like 24 for Providence has been a big number, things like that. And it's like, I don't hate that idea of like, 24 you earn in New England if you want to be the top corner, which is something they've done in Dallas with 88 with the wide receivers as well. Des Bryant, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Irvin. I really don't hate that. I think there's multiple approaches here, but I'm not in love with like Matt Sokol in 87 or Jalen Hawkins.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it's hard. And listen, we all know I love my guy Trey Nixon, but the fact that Trey Nixon was wearing 87 right after Gronk left, it's like kind of a little strange. The hard thing is that when a guy like Gronk, when he leaves, like he kind of forces his way out of town, right? Like you almost feel like you leave on a sour note. And so then I don't feel as bad giving his jersey away. Now, posterity wise, maybe we say, okay, like we're going to retire Gronk's number at some point, maybe. But again, it's, and look, now that they've changed the rules and you can wear whatever jersey number you want, I think it matters less and less about which numbers you retire because, oh, you're a tight end? Sure, wear number 6. Great. Good for you. Who cares? It doesn't matter. So, like, it's not like, well, we have to maintain the 80s because we only have a certain number. We're already tied at 89. Like, so, like, you don't have to worry about that as much. I'm sure you got to think about it in the 50s and 60s. But, like, I just feel like, at this point, and this is kind of the way I feel, like TD kind of nailed it, in my opinion.
I think that's fair, too.
Like, you're retiring 12. Obviously, no one's ever wearing 12 ever again. Clearly, right?
Yeah.
But does it really matter for anyone else? Like, is there anyone else that transcends the game where you're like, we have to retire this jersey number?
Well,
and in fairness, and here's part of the problem. What you said earlier was perfect. They retired numbers early, and they probably regret doing that because you're looking at it saying, look, these are great guys, and they're really important to the history of our franchise. But now we have some guys that are really important to the history of our franchise. And not only that, they helped us win multiple championships. And we really can't, retire their numbers because they're not good enough, and I think they meet those thresholds. Steve Nelson, like Julian Edelman and Matthew Slater, and maybe not Matthew Slater. Well, I think Matthew Slater, Julian Edelman, Matthew Slater, and Devin McCourty all reach the level of Steve Nelson. Like to me, that's pretty undeniable. So like, according to the old rules, right? You know what I mean?
Another name to throw in there too, Adam Vinatieri, with what he has meant to this family. I think the way things ended with New England and how long he was in Indy, I think changed that a little bit.
Changed a little bit, right?
Yeah. The other thing here too is that, it's the Brady Belichick dynasty. The fact that Brady was so good means that some of these other players kind of just get second tier recognition. Right. Like Ty Law is a Hall of Famer, and yet like nobody talks about him when they talk about the dynasty. Not unless you're getting in deep into the conversation. Nope. It's Brady. So, that you suffer from success a little bit there, and that your best player is so good that other people, you're not thinking about those guys, not thinking as much about honoring them. We'll say, and I know we're going to move off this subject shortly, but one other way I've liked teams doing this, and I don't know if you could really get away with this at the NFL level, but I remember Michigan years ago in college football,
Mhm.
something where instead of retiring numbers, they would honor numbers and you could wear any jersey number you wanted. But if it was one of the honored numbers, there was a jersey patch on it with like the name or like the last name or something of the player who,
That's interesting.
who wore it, which is like, I don't know if you could do it on the outside of it, but like, I don't hate the idea of like, you wear 32 in New England, you get like a helmet sticker that says McCourty or something like that on it. Like
It's kind
that
of cool.
thing. Yeah, I don't know if they would ever allow that. And the college is a lot more flexible about these things than the NFL. But yeah, I think I always remember it because that year the Michigan quarterback switched to wear 98, which was the number that an old Michigan quarterback way back when wore. It had the big patch on the front, which
Really?
quarterback in 98. That's
Was
something.
that Robinson? What's his name? What the
I
heck's his
believe
first
I
name?
was either Denard Robinson or Devin
Denard.
Gardner, and it's escaping me right
I'm
now.
pretty sure Denard Robinson was the one wearing 98. I'm almost positive. But anyways, Denard, he had a nickname too. What was his nickname? Because it wasn't
Now
Denard.
you're
Like no one called him Denard Robinson, but I can't remember who it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, all right. Let's get off this topic. Matter of fact, let's do an ad read first. You want to do your ad read, and then I'll do my ad read second. Because once again, we have dropped the ball again, and do not have preloaded ad reads. But
It's the off season,
it is the off season.
Yeah.
But we will, and especially listen. The Prize Picks one was fun for a while, but like every time I recorded it, someone lost, and so now I'm saying Jason Tatum, and I'm happy that I haven't recorded it yet. Although I will say, that I am saying I think Luka as well. So, I'm making sure not to just say the Celtics because
you don't want.
I don't want to jinx anyone.
Yeah. I will say one last comment on the jersey retirement thing before we move on.
Yeah.
I think one thing that makes it a little bit easier with the jersey number retirements from the last dynasty era is that they changed uniforms and it's a different number font now. So like when I picture like, Ty Law wearing 24, like visually it looks different from like the 24 that they wear now. And it's like, okay, it still feels a little bit different. That makes it a little bit better. Obviously 12 is like, nobody wears 12 again. That is Tom Brady.
That's correct.
For some of the other numbers, I wonder if can you retire can they retire 24 multiple times here? Like, can we just get like a 24th shrine somewhere in the Patriots Hall of Fame and you just put Ty Law on it and Stephon Gilmore and
Well, honestly, you
Darrell
know how
Revis, Kyle
I almost
Arrington,
feel like you look at it and say, you do something like you talked about where you only wear 24 if you're a badass. You got to earn 24. You want to be the best receiver. You want to be the best corner on the team. Great, you wearing 24, right? Like if Christian Gonzalez turns into the guy that we think he's going to be, you turn around and say, "Hey, man, I know you liked 0, but like you're a stud. How do you feel about 24?"
That's what Jerry Jones did with 88 with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And CeeDee Lamb, and that is not the number CeeDee Lamb wanted. But Jerry Jones was like, "No, you are our number one receiver. You get 88." That is the way it works here. And
so
you could also do that, I think, with 54 with linebackers if you wanted, with Brewski and Hightower both rocking that one.
Yep. Feel the same way, right?
Something like that.
Juwan Bentley. Yep. Juwan Bentley. That's great. You like number 8? Awesome. Good for you. You're wearing 54. You know what I mean? So
Bentley wearing 54, I think, would be weird because he played with Hightower. So
I agree with you. It's a little strange. You're right.
I do like Bentley in 8. That was weird at the time, but I like that.
I'm a fan of it too.
Yeah, it works for him. All right. Let's get into this ad read. The NBA Finals, they start this week. I would love to go see the Celtics fight for a championship against the Mavericks. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Looking for tickets to the finals? Just search Celtics in your Game Time app to find tickets to all 4 home games. From there, you can hit Game Time deals to quickly find the best value seats in the arena. You can even use Seat Views to get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. It's Monday, so you guys got a couple days to, download the app, use that code, and get yourself to TD Garden Thursday night.
Love it. Love it. Oh, so good. I'm excited. I'm actually going to be using it. I think I'm going to be using it for Chicago. I'm waiting. I'm waiting around though to see what the prices look like. I also got to see if you can get there as well. So
yeah, I got to figure out I'm going to be there for that.
But anyways, all right. So let's start this draft. And so this draft, for those of you that didn't know, okay, is we are drafting players that we want to see on the team. Okay. Now, a few things we got to take into consideration. Number one, the current team. Okay. Number two, the player's age and contract, right? We're not just looking at this saying, hey, in a real, Trent Williams was really good back in the day. Trent Williams, but 6 years ago. No. Like today's current 100%. This is the guy. This is his contract, right? Or lack of a contract for that matter, right? And so those things kind of all come into consideration. And we'll get into it, I'm sure. But a guy like Brandon Ayuk is an interesting case study because Brandon Ayuk is a guy that I love, Brandon Ayuk, and I'm extremely high on him. I don't know if I feel comfortable picking him in this situation, however, because he hasn't gotten drafted yet. He hasn't gotten signed yet. Mm-hmm. And these wide receiver contracts are coming out and they're massive. And so now am I going to have to, he's going to suffer from, he's going to benefit, but the team, whatever team signs him, is going to suffer from this extra tax that comes on top of it because these guys have gotten paid so much money. And so just something else you have to consider when you're trying to, bring one of these guys in.
Yeah. We're not doing quarterbacks in this.
Yes, that's a good point. We are not doing quarterbacks. Yep. Obviously, we have Drake May, but at the same time, there's a multiple quarterback who would take over Drake May, right? And just because, you wouldn't want Patrick Mahomes over Drake May, hello, so we don't need to do that. We don't need to get into that conversation. It's a waste of a round because we're both going to take a quarterback in the first round. Whoever gets the first pick is going to take Patrick Mahomes, and whoever gets the second pick is going to take either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or, Joe Burrow or whatever. We don't need to do that.
CJ Stroud.
Right. Yeah, that's another good option as well. So, So anyways, we don't need to do that. And so we're going to go with non-quarterbacks.
Yep. 5 picks each.
5 picks each.
Snake draft?
Non-quarterbacks. Snake draft.
Yeah.
I'm going to I don't know. You can go first or second. I'm going to let you choose whether you'd like to go first or second. First he goes.
My one overall here is easy. I feel good about this, especially because he's in the news right now. If I had any player in the NFL of the New England Patriots, it's Justin Jefferson.
Love it.
Or kids.
Love it.
They have all the cap space to absorb that contract, so you're not worried about that at all. You can put him anywhere in the field, and he will dominate. He is the best receiver in the NFL and arguably the best non-quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if that's for certain thing. I think there's a couple other guys you can throw in that conversation, some of whom will probably come up in this draft right here. But even with that contract and how much you have to pay for him, this is the time where you can afford it if you're New England. And you got him locked up for a little bit. Yeah, give me Jay Jettis.
Yeah,
and, Drake May throwing him the ball.
I mean, that's the correct choice, right? Yeah. He just got paid a ton of money, and he's worth every single penny. Every
35 mil a year, and it's like a real 35 mil. It's not like it looks like 35, but they can cut him after 2 years. No, I think it's fully guaranteed through 3 years or something like that. I give him a lot of money, and he deserves it. I mean, he was banged up this past season, and I think still went over 1,000 yards. So
yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, you got picks 2 and 3 here. Very curious to see where you go.
I do, in fact. For pick 2, I'm going off the board. I'm going off the board. It's a little bit of a shocking pick.
Is it a
I'm
kicker?
not going to lie to you. No, it's not a kicker. It's a little bit of a shocking pick. Let me ask you a question, Matt. What's the biggest need that the Patriots have right now?
Well, depending on how Drake May plays quarterback, but
Yeah,
outside
well,
of that,
okay, all right, I know, but we're not too quarterback. Left tackle, that is correct.
Yeah.
My first round pick, the second pick of the draft, is going to be a guy who actually doesn't play left tackle right now, but who can play left tackle, and that is Penny Sewell.
Yeah.
Tackle from the Lions. And here's why I would take Sewell over guys like Christian Darrisaw. And Darrisaw is really good and playing left tackle for Minnesota. Christian Darrisaw does not have a contract. Penny Sewell does have a contract. Penny Sewell is signed for the next 2 years with under a $10 million cap hit, and then has a 4-year extension on top of that. Now, his cap hits are fairly large, right? Between 28, I think 28 is the lowest and 34 is the highest. Or 27 is the lowest and 34 is the highest. But they're not crazy numbers. They're not crazy numbers for a guy that's a dominant left tackle, that can be a dominant left tackle like that. You plug him in at left tackle, you have Onwenu at right tackle, and all of a sudden you're looking at this and you're saying, oh shit, we got a team. We got a team here. And of course, we see what Drake May does. But again, we're not drafting quarterback, so it's just the way it goes. And so Penny Sewell is my pick there.
Are we? So here's my question: Are we like ranking these? Or are we like adding 5 players each to the Patriots?
What do you mean?
What I mean is, are you thinking about drafting another tackle, or are you?
No, okay. So yes, we are like
Building
drafting 5 players.
Yeah.
So like those 5 players are going to come, because I thought about that and like shit, just draft like 4 of the same position or something like that. But it's like that's silly. So you want to kind of go throughout, I feel like, and draft as if you were building a roster.
Okay.
Okay.
I like it. Yeah.
And this pick is, oh God, I don't know what to do with this pick, because I'm really like, so my issue here is that I have 2 guys that I really want to draft, and I honestly don't know what to do. F it. I'm just gonna do it because this guy is just an absolute freak. I'm going Micah Parsons.
Oh, I wasn't sure how early he was gonna come off the board.
Because he is an absolute freak.
Yeah.
He is an absolute freak, dude.
I don't care that it's defense. It's just,
and that's the thing. Like, yes, he's a defensive player, and the Patriots already have a good defense. But like, imagine if you throw Micah Parsons on that defense.
Yeah,
they would be outrageous. And again, that's the way it goes. And so I'm a big fan of Micah Parsons. And also, James is asking a question. Can Matt pick his own left tackle? Yes. So what we are doing, it's a great question, James. What we are doing is we are drafting 5 players like as if we were in charge, right? Yeah. But once you take a guy, I can't then take a guy. And once I take a guy, you can't take a guy. So
yeah. That's Mike is a great pick. He's fantastic. And I think what he would allow you to do defensively, like, puts you in a position where Matthew Judon is your second edge rusher and Joshua Uche is your third. And I mean, just line up Barmore and Parsons together and let them go have fun. I love that. I think he would wreck defenses, offenses. So awesome. Yeah,
it'd be so awesome. Yeah. By the way, see you later, Matt. Thank you for coming. I just love how in the comments, like in the chat, is like all people like, hey, what's up? Hey, how's it going? Like people like hanging out and like talking. It's great. I love it.
So
it's a
ton of fun. All right.
So yes.
I did see somebody in the chat just say that I'm gonna take CeeDee Lamb here. I can tell you I am not taking CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. I think he's awesome. But I got a couple other things here. There's 2 players I really like. But
Okay.
I'm going to stay away from that area for now because I think I can get at least one of them when I come back up.
All right.
So I think for me, because I already got. Wait, did you? Oh, you picked twice, right?
I did.
Who are your two?
My two were Penny Sewell and Micah Parsons.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because I got Justin Jefferson, so I still need a tackle to address the Patriots
Correct.
on my side. I think there's a lot of guys you can take here. There's a lot of tackles, I think, in this next tier. And this is where it's about kind of valuing the contract versus just how good of a player they are. There's a part of me that looks at this and I'm just like, take Trent Williams because he immediately makes you better. And in year one, you can be a contender type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm going to do here actually is take Rashawn Slater, the Chargers left tackle,
I like that.
who is on the 4th year of his rookie deal and under contract next year. And then you'll get the extension on him. So 2 cheaper years for a franchise left tackle, top 10 tackle in the league, really good player. He dealt with injury issues at one point. I'm banking on the fact that when you take him away from the cursed franchise that is the Chargers, you don't have some of those injury issues anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've great left tackle and would make that look good really fast. That side of the offensive line. So I got a wide receiver. I got a tackle now. Now this next pick, I'm curious what you think about this one.
Okay.
I'm jumping on it now because I'm not gonna get jumped on this one.
Okay.
Sam Laporta.
Son of a bitch. He was 100% on my list. Yep.
Rookie contract, tight end, playmaker. One of the best tight ends in the NFL last season. You get him cheap for a while now.
It's a solid pick. Yeah.
Really valuable guy. I was hesitating a little bit because he's a tight end, but also I think he can be a truly elite tight end. And to get that on a rookie deal, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. No, that's such a good one. Yeah. That's such a good one. I was hoping to get him around here, so thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot. To figure.
Hey, I thought I was actually going to be going with Laporta and Micah Parsons there. So
there you go. So see, I stole from you. You stole from me.
Yeah.
All right. So I think there's so many different places to go, and I don't know which one I want. So I'll just be honest with you, right? Ramondre Stevenson's great. Fantastic player. However, his contract's up after this year. He is probably going to require a decent amount of money to bring back. Maybe not, but I kind of feel like he would be. And so I'm thinking we need some youth in the running back room. And it just so happens that 2 electric running backs were drafted in the first round last year. And so the question now becomes, do you take Jahmyr Gibbs or do you take Bijan Robinson? Now, Bijan Robinson's a guy that is electric with the ball in his hands, can line up as a slot receiver, showed that he can line up as a slot receiver. And I think that, that's a guy that I can see doing all those different things. And matter of fact, I think he came out and said something about how they're going to use him more in that like Alvin Kamara type role this year. However, I think Gibbs is just he's insane in space. And I think he's the better receiver out of the backfield. That might not be 100% true, but that's how I feel about it. And so I'm going with Jahmyr Gibbs as my pick here. So
I don't hate that at all, especially because when you do have Ramondre, I like the way those 2 players complement one another.
I think that kind of that weighs on it for me a little bit more because Bijan, not that Bijan is the same player that Ramondre is because he isn't, but he's closer to Ramondre than Gibbs is.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I feel about that. So, so Gibbs. And then oh God. All right,
I still
so
haven't taken a wide receiver here.
I understand that. I know. But there's like 6 players I want to draft before wide receiver. No, that's not true. But there's a bunch of players I want to draft as well. Yeah, all right. So what I'm considering here at wide receiver is that, kind of age versus, youth, money wise, right? Because you got to think about money. You got to kind of go, who's this but oh man. All right, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, and I'm doing it for my guy. Okay, and of course, my guy is my former co-host. Okay, my former
Keegan?
co-host, the great Keegan Stephen.
Oh, I feel like I know who
Tower.
you're taking here.
And I'm going with Chris Olave.
That is not who I thought you were taking.
I'm doing Chris Olave. I considered Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. As good as Marvin Harrison Jr. is, and I'm sure he's really good, he's a rookie. I don't know how good he's going to be in the NFL. I do know how good Chris Olave is going to be in the NFL because he's really freaking good. And so I'm going Chris Olave. And by the way, Matt Menino says Nick Bolton. And as much as I would love to have Nick Bolton on the team, I'm not going with Nick Bolton. So I went off the board a little bit. I considered Tyreek Hill. I'll be honest with you, I considered Tyreek Hill, considered Garrett Wilson, and I considered Marvin Harrison Jr. But in the end, I'm going with Chris Olave.
That's really interesting. We'll hit that. So I got 2 picks, and you got 1.
Yes,
I believe. So
yeah, I finished off the draft, my last pick.
Yeah, my 3 picks so far. I got Justin Jefferson, short up the left side of the line with Rashawn Slater. I got Sam Laporta. I feel if you do all that, you got to feel really good about where the offense would be.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So I think after this, it's a little bit of just like adding for fun.
Yep.
There's one player here who I'm really thinking about who I think could be interesting. At a less I don't know what that was.
Someone asked if I was drinking. I'm not. I am drinking, but I'm drinking iced tea.
Nice. Very nice. My question here is it worth taking a guard at this spot with how Cole Strange has been?
Do it.
And that's where, what? Screw it. We'll do it. I'm going to go with Tyler Smith, the left guard of the Cowboys, who is also going to be their Tyron Smith replacement at left tackle.
Rookie.
With how the offensive line has been, getting a guy who has that guard tackle flexibility, who is a really good player, who's still on his rookie deal, I think that's great value here. And I think that shores up your line, especially your blind side with a rookie quarterback. And I'm not worried about the receivers once you add Justin Jefferson to the mix. And Laporta, I think you're fine around that. And that means, I think when we get to the last pick here, we can go receiver and add to that core, or I can go with a defensive player. And I think I'm going to go defense here.
Okay.
I'm between 2 players. Do you go on the back end, do the coverage, or do you go the pass rusher, try to attack the quarterback? Now, part of what makes this difficult is that one of these players is on a rookie deal. And also, that same player is in the division.
Yeah, that certainly makes it difficult.
Yeah. I think Myles Garrett is probably the best defender left. But I also think I'm going to take Sauce Gardner here because I think you can scheme up pressure. And I think a Sauce Gardner, Christian Gonzalez secondary on the outside is so ridiculously good that I just have a hard time passing that up.
Yeah. I am I'm really second guessing my Chris Olave pick because I almost took Sauce. And then I was like, I'm worried he's going to take another wide receiver. And I should have just taken Sauce, but that's okay. So here's my last pick. And again, now I'm rocking a hard place here because I'm considering Hill as well. Because, I mean, you know. But for me, and this is going to be I'm going to just tell you right now, this is going to be an unpopular pick. It's just going to be unpopular, and I'm okay with that. Because in my personal opinion, okay, Derek Stingley Jr. was the top cornerback in that draft. He has been hurt
last year
for a good amount of time, and he was absolutely fantastic at the end of last year when he was finally healthy. And he brings a little bit more, not that Sauce isn't physical, but he brings a little bit more of the physicality that Sauce doesn't necessarily play with. And so I'm going with Derek Stingley Jr. as my last pick. Still 22. Will be 23 by the time the season starts, but he's on the same rookie contract that Sauce is on.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel good about the Stingley pick. And again, don't forget now, I added Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
So now I added Parsons and Stingley, and I have, Christian Gonzalez on the other side. So to me, I'm looking at that saying, that's.
Yeah.
And by the way, guess what number Derek Stingley Jr. wears?
24.
24. That's right, baby.
Slot him right in. Well, I think Josh has that number right now.
So who do you say? Oh, Joe. Yeah. Right. I think we can take it away from Josh Bledsoe.
But by the way, I think I totally slipped it. I don't know if you caught it earlier. We were talking about building a statue or memorial for 24 in New England. I mentioned Kyle Arrington.
I heard you. I heard you. Don't worry. I heard you.
Patriots. Hey, what he did in the 2014 AFC Championship game against T.Y. Hilton deserves to be remembered. Yeah. He was so good in that game.
He was very good. Now, of course, he was wearing 25 in that game, but still.
That one. Yeah. He wore 24 when he recovered the onside kick against the Browns, though.
Yep. Yeah. Look, man, he was an underrated player. And, oh, by the way, don't forget now, if he doesn't get smoked all over the field by Chris Evans, what the hell was that? Chris Matthews, right? The super tall guy on the Seahawks, who literally played one game in the NFL, and it was that game. If he doesn't get smoked over the field by him, Malcolm Butler's not even in the game. Yeah. So, but
that was all a matchup things. They need Browner on the outside, and I think that was something Belichick talked about. That Arrington was a streaky player who could get hot and cold, and that was one of those where once they knew he was a little bit cold and just wasn't feeling the game that night, you kind of had to make an adjustment. But he was a really good player.
He was. Yep. And again, one of those guys, better than Miles Bryant, but like a Miles Bryant, where he's got to play the right role. He's got to play the right role. But again, I just feel like, that's kind of the way you have to play it. You know what I mean? Like, put them in the right spot. Those guys are valuable, but they have to play at their role, not in someone else's role.
Well, Arrington is also a guy who, kind of like Miles Bryant, he plays a position on the field where when you get burnt, it looks really bad.
Yeah, that's also true.
So your bad plays just look awful.
That's fair too. Good point.
Makes it worse. Also, do we want to touch on a couple of the players that we didn't take in this draft real quick, guys that we were thinking about?
So we can. Here's what we're going to do. We got to do an ad break. Let's touch on some players that we would have or would have considered, and then we'll recap our teams really quick, and then we'll get you guys the heck out of here. All right. So this ad read is for Prize Picks. So Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stats, projections, and you're locked in. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new as basketball is winding down. Make sure to try out esports this month because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and more. Now, for this week, I told you for this week, Jaylen Brown, more than 25 points. That's what I'm going with. Jaylen Brown, more than 25 points, and Luka Doncic with more than 25 points as well. Both of those things, I just feel like are almost guaranteed to happen. Obviously not guaranteed to happen, but that's how I feel about it. Luka, I think, a little bit more comfortable with Luka, but nevertheless. And then I'm also going, we already talked about the WNBA. I'm going Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 3-pointers and Breanna Stewart for more than 23 points. Additionally, just this week, before Thursday, they're going to include an extra tile in here. Okay? An extra square, we'll call it, an extra square. If Jason Tatum scores 1 point, you win. 1 point. All Jason Tatum has to do is hit a free throw, and you win. I mean, you can't flipping beat that. So get on there. Bet Jason Tatum over 0.5 points. All right? So do that. Okay? Now download the app today. Put in the promo code CLNS, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's the promo code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy. All right. Who do you got? Who are your honorable mentions here? Give me an honorable mention or two.
I think Tyreek Hill has to be the next guy up.
He's got to be. I agree with you.
Yeah, elite. I think his age and contract are kind of what push him down the board a little bit here, especially because I think he's floated that he wants to retire on the sooner side of things.
Yeah.
Which is tough, but also
star, apparently. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, buddy.
You do you, Tyreek. But yeah, I think you player that talent, the way he gets stretched the field for you is fantastic. I mentioned Myles Garrett.
Yep.
As a guy I was also considering. I think Aiden Hutchinson in the conversation. Mm-hmm. He's been really good on a rookie deal. And another defensive player I'll throw the name in is Jesse Bates. The Patriots could use a free safety. He was really good last year.
Sure was. Yeah, that's a really good one. One of the guys that I was considering that I did not take defensively is TJ Watt. And again, TJ Watt is a guy that, of course, has a big contract right now, has 2 years left on a fairly big contract. And so you look at it and say, well, he's a little bit older. He's 30 right now. And that means he's going to be looking for a new contract at 32. It's a little old, but he's still a dominant player when he's healthy, right? And so I like the idea of a guy like TJ Watt. I mentioned Bijan Robinson earlier, who I did not take, but mentioned him. And then Brandon Ayuk as well, I think, is a guy that bears mentioning just because, yes, you do have to pay him. But, man, he just, to me at least, I look at him and I'm like, yeah, you got to pay him. But, is he going to get paid top of the market? Or is he going to get more like a Christian Kirk type of deal? Or a Calvin Ridley, is he worth a Calvin Ridley type of deal? I think he is. And so if you can get him for around that, I think I'm okay with that, Yeah. And then CeeDee Lamb, people talked about CeeDee Lamb as well. CeeDee's another guy that needs a contract. But again, I think he's going to be worth that number one money for you. And if you're acquiring now, you still have that 1 year of fairly low salary that you have to pay him, at least comparatively speaking. So, So I don't, I certainly don't mind that pick, especially for as good of a player he is.
Yeah. I had Nico Collins on my list who just got locked up.
Yeah.
I think he's really good. He's young, and I like the contract. I think it's good value for what he brings to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another name I didn't get brought up there, but for the team fit for what I was doing, once I've taken Justin Jefferson and knowing what Drake May is.
Yeah,
Malik Neighbors. The guy was a rookie, but when Tez Walker was playing for UNC last year, may like to look his way a lot on some of those vertical shots or, plays going across the field. And if you already have Justin Jefferson, you can bring in another LSU guy who can be your speed guy, who can be developed, and, you play him as a speed slot for you. And I think that would be truly dynamic with what Drake May brings to the table.
I like that a lot.
Oh,
I think
and
that makes a ton of sense.
Ray mentions in the chat too, Jamar Chase, another guy who I was considering here.
Yeah.
Very, very good player. What he does after the catch too, I think, such an asset there. So I think it's just part of that's the contract for him. His contract's not bad though, but
No.
with a big contract guy, it's going to be Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So I think Jefferson's he's clearly the number one receiver in the NFL. So, and look, there are lots of guys as well when you start looking at it and you say, okay, do we need a center, right? And do we take the kid from, for God's sakes, from Kansas City? I'm blanking on his name, Creed Humphrey. Do we take a guy like Creed Humphrey, who is, still on his rookie deal, one of the best centers in the league, a guy that can step in and replace David Andrews from day one. Now, was David Andrews going to play 2 more years? I don't know, right? Is this David Andrews last year? I'm not sure. But, a guy like that can kind of step in and play that role, I think would be helpful. But, again, it's like, how do you replace a guy that's already on the roster? You know what I mean? He's still on the roster. It's not like he's gone, So it's tempting, but you're kind of like, well, I don't really know if I want to do that because – he's still kind of here.
Well, you mentioned the Chiefs. Another thing I was considering in here was righting a wrong and bringing back Joe Thuney. Tyler Smith being younger, cheaper, and having the tackle flexibility was, going to win that tiebreaker. But Thuney's still a very, very good player. I think when you look back, you look at all the mistakes that have been made in the last 5 years. I think letting Joe Thuney walk out the door may have been the worst thing that they did when you think about what that money went to instead and the difficulty they have had replacing that spot combined with how good of a player he still is.
So
they gave him that contract and he stayed. I think we'd all be very happy with that.
Yeah. And I will say, so those few years were some of, and in my opinion, is the reason why, and not the only reason why, but a big part of the reason why I was okay with Belichick being on the way out and going away. And part of that is 2020 comes up. No one's spending any money. No one is spending money. You just let Tom Brady walk. You're getting a 3rd-round pick comp for Tom Brady. That's happening. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Thuney, his contract has also expired. And instead of letting him walk as well, knowing you're not re-signing anyone, knowing that you're now a rebuilding team because you don't have Tom Brady, you give him the franchise tag and then proceed to not re-sign him to a big contract.
And not trade him.
And that's the other part of it. You don't trade him. Now you strike gold with Mike Onwenu, which is great.
Yeah.
But what are we doing? And then you trade, Shaq Mason. So now it was like, well, great, you kept Mike Onwenu, but now you traded your other guard too. So the other guard's gone. And then in the meantime, you have 2 corners, not one, but 2 corners. One of them, Stephon Gilmore, and the other one, J.C. Jackson. And the thought process all along was you have to choose one of them. You never chose Gilmore. Gilmore was pissed off, never played for you that last year. You traded him for a future 6th-round pick, which is you literally could have just let him walk, just go to the end of the year and just let him walk. And that's what you would have gotten back for him. You would have gotten a better draft pick back for him, for Stephon Gilmore, if you had not re-signed him at the end of the year and let him walk and gotten a comp pick back. Yeah. That's an embarrassment. And then J.C. Jackson is the other one where, again, you didn't choose either of those guys. You had the opportunity in a crap year that you were terrible in 2020. You had an opportunity to trade both those guys, and you didn't. And instead, you let them walk, and you got screwed. Unfortunately, you got screwed with J.C. Jackson because he leaves. He signs a big contract, right, with with the Chargers. You should get a 3rd-round compact pick for him, but he gets hurt, and so you only get a 4th, which sucks. But like, still, it's inexcusable what they did. And I know AWS Sabermetrics over there is giving me crap because I'm on my tirade again about Gilmore and Jackson. But those 4 decisions to me are really some of the reasons why Bill's gone, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's tough right now to look around the NFL also and see, you're starting left guard and right guard from 2020, both on contenders
And
the
still
AFC.
very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you used, a 1st-round pick to try to replace one of them that hasn't worked out so far. And, hypothetically, there's a world here where your line from left guard over is Tooney, Andrews, Mason, Onwenu right now. And you feel a lot better about where you are.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. And I don't have any regrets about the JC Jackson part of it with how that went. And I think it was pretty clear that he was always batting a little bit above what he should have been in New England. They did a really good job of putting him in good spots, and he went elsewhere and then disappeared. And then he also got hurt, which I think really, really damaged that.
When I agree with that, but again, why didn't you trade them? That's my biggest issue, is that you had these guys as assets and you didn't trade them.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, is that they're bought into winning, so you're never going to trade off a guy like that, which is the good and bad part of the way Bill Belichick does business. But also, he did it. He traded Richard Seymour. He traded Shaq Mason. I think in theory, you lock up Stephon Gilmore for a little bit and trade JC Jackson probably before that last season, before 2021. Lock up the interior offensive line so that your quarterback has something to play behind. And although maybe you don't end up with Drake May now and you're still trying to make Mac Jones work if all that happens.
Right. Yeah. It's certainly possible, right? Everything happens for a reason. And that's one of those things where it's like they draft Cole Strange and you're like, oh man, but you could have had the kid from the Chiefs, the all-pro slot corner that they drafted at 22 when they traded up with the Patriots. Can't think of his freaking name. Thank you, Trent McDuffie. And you're like, but if they draft Trent McDuffie, then they wouldn't have drafted Christian Gonzalez the next year. But it just is what it is. Anyways, all right. So let's get into our. Let's just run through our teams again and again. These are 5 players that we're adding to the current roster.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I'm adding Penny Sewell to play left tackle, Micah Parsons to just play defense. His position next to him is just defense, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, Chris Olave, and Derek Stingley Jr. And also, by the way, I always loved the thought of Darryl Stingley's nephew playing for the Patriots. I just thought that'd be so cool.
Fun. I want him so bad.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I've got for mine, putting Justin Jefferson at receiver, shore up the left side of the line with Rashawn Slater and Tyler Smith, at a tight end in Sam Laporta, and add a star defender in Sauce Gardner. And let's see. How many is it? Rashawn Slater still on a rookie deal. Sam Laporta still on a rookie deal. Sauce Gardner still on a rookie deal. And Tyler Smith. Yeah. Everyone but Justin Jefferson. So I makes it a lot easier to fit that under the cap.
Lots of rookie deals. And rookie deals for me as well. And again, you can certainly make the argument that I should have taken Marvin Harrison Jr. over Chris Olave. I think you're not wrong if you make that argument. I think if I had to go back to when I made that decision, I probably should have. But I also love Chris Olave, and so I don't have a problem with it. But I feel like either way, you can't necessarily go wrong. But you do get those extra few years as well of that cost control if you go with Marvin Harrison Jr. But nevertheless, so I think that's it. Do we have anything else? Anything else you want to?
I think that's it. We got OTA tomorrow. We'll be back Wednesday night.
Yep, we're going to be back Wednesday night. Of course, the final start on Thursday. We'll be talking a little bit of Celtics on Wednesday. Not a ton. We're not. Listen, we're not a
basketball podcast.
DJ says that the Olave pick was made after Giant swig and twisted tea. So, anyways, it's one of those. We're not a basketball podcast, but we gotta talk about that. I mean, it's the freaking finals, for God's sakes. So we'll be back to talk about that. We'll talk about that on Wednesday night. We'll talk about OTAs, and then we'll get into it. And I think Monday, I want to chat a little bit about the Brady ceremony, which is going to be on Thursday, next Wednesday. I'm sorry, which I will be in attendance for. So I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you are. Yes, I'm sure you are. There's still fairly cheap tickets, I think, if you want to come up for the. I do have a pull-out sofa in my basement, so if you want to go from there, we can
see what they got.
So, but yeah. So, anyways, thank you to the chat. We appreciate you guys for coming through. As always, you guys make the show what it is. You're way better than we are. So, thank you for coming through, and thank you for listening anywhere. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, both on the CLNS, page, and also on the Pats Nation Network page as well. So, thanks, guys. We appreciate it, and we'll see you Wednesday night.